What's going on, traders? Welcome to the weekly Forex Outlook and reviews in under 12 minutes so you can enjoy your Sunday. I hope you've had a fantastic trading week, and of course, I wish you a great week ahead. If you're new to the channel, welcome. Please turn on notifications for future videos, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and hit that like button if you enjoy the reviews. Without further ado, let's get on with the show. So the first pair that we're going to be taking a look at today is Pound USD. You can clearly see here that the structure of the market has been pushing bullish. We've been stepping up, making higher highs and higher lows. Now, one thing that I have in the back of my mind is that last week, or should we say at the start of the month, second week in the month, we had this really strong impulsive move to the downside, and we haven't exactly corrected that. In fact, we haven't even come back to some key levels here. The only thing that I'm identifying is a reaction that we're having here where price accumulated for a period of time. There was no bias where bulls were either pushing to the upside or downside. We can see the sharp movement to the downside that was then corrected, and then we had this move up back to the upside in line with the overall consensus of the market, which was bearish. What I'm thinking about this week moving forward into Monday, and remember, these reviews are of my own opinion, so these are not signals, and this can change rapidly overnight, so make sure you're doing your analysis in the morning. But we can see the market has been moving sideways. We have created an area of resistance here around 34.98 where prices failed to make new highs, and we've had this sharp movement to the downside. The thing is, we're trapped between this level here, 34.08, and what I would like to see is a clear directional bias. That being said, I'd like to see price break above 34.98, and then in anticipation of price to continue back up to around 35.50. That doesn't happen. In line with the behavior that we closed off on Friday, I'd like to see a break of 34.08 and then a target back down to around 33.56. The next pair we'll take a look at is Euro USD. Now, we're anticipating Pound USD to continue bearish in line with the behavior that we saw on Friday, which was really illustrating a bearish sentiment. In line with Euro USD here, we do have a bearish trend, which also is indicating USD strength. I'd like to see a continuation to the downside as well on Euro USD. That would just add confluence that we found from Pound USD here, and I think that the most feasible plan of action, looking at the structure of this market, of course, is going to be a break of 12.79 and then look for those retests for those continuations. Now, price doesn't need to break this level. We could have some pullbacks to some of these key levels here before we continue back to the downside and or even having a reversal. But as of now, the confluence lines up that we potentially are looking for USD strength moving into the early start of next week. And I think the great plan of action here, or a great plan of action, is to see a break of 12.79 back to the downside. The next pair we'll take a look at is AUDJPY. Now, you can clearly see we have been moving sideways for a period of time. The overall consensus of the market has been pushing bearish, and we are failing to break highs here around 84.12, meaning that there is a sentiment illustrating to us yen strength and or potentially Aussie dollar weakness. Now, the thing is, we have broken below a very significant level here around 83.02, which was the last low that was made around the 10th of November, just like we saw on Pound USD. And we can see here that price is trading below it still. That being said, I think the best plan of action moving forward into the early start of next week is to see price pull back to around 83.02 to then look for a continuation to the downside. I don't think we have any significant levels at the lows to look for break and retest as of yet, and as we are in a push phase, I think the best plan of action is to look for that pullback, potentially look for those retests around an area where price is reacting to, which is around 83.02, and then look for that continuation. Next pair we'll take a look at is CADJPY. This is just adding significant confluence to the idea that yen is strong. We can see as on AUDJPY that we've had those break of those significant lows, and we can also see the same here on CADJPY. The break around 90.52, where price held for a long period of time, failed to break highs around 91.47. We finally broke below this level. We are trading below it. So I think the best plan of action is to identify the high, the low, the lower high, and the lower low in anticipation of a new retest around 90.52, and then look for a continuation back to the downside. This is an area in the market where prices reacted to before, meaning we could find some orders in there to help support the sell buy sentiment, and then be on the right side of the market with the confluence that we've seen from AUDJPY indicating potentially yen strength. Next pair we'll take a look at is Euro Yen. We're also getting confluence here from Euro USD. We can see the weakness with the euro, as we can see the trend of the market has been pushing bearish. We can also add confluence to that with yen weakness, or sorry, beg your pardon, yen strength with Aussie dollar JPY and CAD JPY. And we can see here on EURJPY, we have the same sentiment. So that gives me full confidence. Disclaimer, trades can still lose, but that gives me full confidence that I am satisfied with looking for sell opportunities. And if price pulls back to around 129.66, which is an area where prices reacted to before, an area where the market created a phase where there was neither a bullish or bearish directional bias, and then eventually we have this rally to the downside, I'll be confident to look for signals around this area to look for continuation sells back to the downside. Now, of course, price doesn't need to pull back here, but based on a break and retest strategy, I'm looking for simple, clean patterns, and this is the process that I'll be waiting for in the early start of next week. Next pair we'll take a look at is USD Swiss franc. Now we can see across the board that the dollar is showing signs of strength, especially with pound USD starting to, well, pound USD pushing to the upside, but pound USD failing to break highs here. This doesn't mean that we're going to have a shift in bias. We do have, for the first time in a long time, price breaking this brick wall here, which is a trend line indicating that there is some sort of bearish sentiment. What that means for me is if we're not breaking above 92.87 and or potentially 93.22, then there's going to be a significant change or potential significant change. So what I'm going to be looking for here is, I know if price breaks above with the bullish behavior that we're seeing here, above 92.87, then I'll be happy to take advantage of this range, which is 36 pips back to the high. But of course, if we start to continue to fail this movement to the upside with a sentiment of a structural high, low, lower high, potential double top, then I'll be more inclined to look for sells on a break of 92.45 back to the downside, increasing that range of 55 pips. Next pair we'll take a look at is USDJPY. So just adding confluence there to USD Swiss franc, we can see that the sentiment is starting to change. Again, we have a break of the brick wall here. We have strong bearish indication that the bears are in control of the market. We also have an area here in the market where price failed to break above 114.37. We have a sharp reaction to the downside, indicating here USD weakness. That just adds confluence to what we've looked at so far in terms of the other pairs. So personally, what I'd like to see is price trading below 114.37 to continue to illustrate the structural high, low, lower, high, lower, low formation, and a break of 113.77 will then see a really nice movement to the downside to around 112.92. Now, the reason why I've marked this area here, not the low, is because this is an area where price paused for a period of time. There was neither a bullish or bearish sentiment, and then eventually we had a reaction. So I want to see that the bulls have depleted this area. We can get back down to it, and if we start breaking it, then of course we can start seeing some more sharp movements to the downside. But as of now, the plan of action is a break of 113.77 all the way back down to around 112.92 moving into next week. The next pair we'll take a look at is New Zealand dollar JPY. I think here at the moment we are still trapped in this range. It does look like we've broken it if we draw a key level here, but I think we have to think logically about what price is doing, and we can see that the level here around 79.75 is failing to be broken. We have a bearish sentiment here where we can see that the bears are showing stronger signs that they're in control of the market with failures to close bullish, and we can see that the previous close on Friday was bearish as well. What I want to see is price breaking 79.75, look for a nice clean retest in line with the overall sentiment, which is price failing to break above structural highs. So meaning bulls are depleting potentially around these areas, and then look for a continuation back to the downside. We shall see what happens with this one. Next pair we'll take a look at is USDCAD. Now, the overall sentiment of this market is trending up. We have higher highs and higher lows here. We have a really nice retest of this structure. Granted, it didn't move immediately, but we then had the sharp movement to the upside. Now, I just want to say here, I don't see price making any new highs at the moment. I do see it trapped more in a range than anything else. So I would want to increase the range for buys if we're going to continue with the overall focus, which is this trend to the upside, and look for a retest of 25.94 and then look for a continuation higher. And then of course, if we don't come back to around 25.94, then I'm going to want to look for a break above 26.47 and then look for those continuations higher. Now, if price doesn't make new highs in line with the sentiment of the market, and we get confidence to add that there's a depletion in this USD strength here and this trend to the upside, then I'm going to want to see 25.94 broken and then look for some reactions around 25.55 and if not, better still, look for a break of 25.55 and then a continuation back down to 24.94, where we clear the traffic and we have confirmation that the bears are really in control of the market. Next pair we'll take a look at is AUDJPY. You can see that we've had a really sharp move to the downside here. We have to continue with that consensus because nothing else at the moment has told us otherwise. So personally, what I want to see is the price come back to an area where there was a reaction previously around 153.82. Look for that retest and see if we can fulfill this range back to the downside. We do have a lot of traffic here to the left, which could be a problem. So make sure that you get good confirmation, not just from your patterns, but the consensus and the sentiment of the market is illustrating pound weakness, yen strength, and that there's some sort of correlation to add and give you a high probability setup so that we can get into a trade or get into a high probability trade where we can take it and at the same time be confident that this traffic here to the left is not going to be a problem. If you're concerned about it, of course, just wait for the break of the lows here if you're looking for sells, and then obviously you don't have to worry about that. Final pair we'll take a look at is gold here. You can clearly see that price has been consolidating for a period of time since the 10th of November. We have seen a bearish close on Friday, and what I would really like to see now is a break of 18.44. Once we get that break close below, potential retest, looking for price to come back to an area where price consolidated previously. There was neither a bias of bulls or bears, and then we had this rally to the upside. So I know this is going to be an area of reaction, and what I'd like to see is that strong close, the patterns that resemble my trading plan or that I'm familiar with, to then confidently take sales back to around 18.27. So that's the analysis for this week in under 12 minutes. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new to the channel, turn on notifications, and of course, traders, continue to trust the process.